and we've got a huge panel here today. This is the second time we've run one of these panels for the University of Sydney, and last year this proved the most popular, so by popular demand we've brought it back again, and even one of the presenters. What I'm going to do is just give you each a minute to describe yourself. I want you to tell us where you've come from. I want you to describe what you're studying and something that you found in Sydney that surprised you. So we'll start off, Claudia.
Hi everyone, my name is Claudio. I'm from Milan, Italy. I came here 8 months ago to study public policy and economics at the postgraduate level. And something that really surprised me about Sydney is how multicultural it is. I mean, I knew about it before, but I didn't know it was to this extent. And everyone will at least either have family from abroad, have friends from abroad, or comes from abroad. So that's something really, really cool.
Thank you. Kevin.
Kevin Lanahan from Cleveland, Ohio. I'm in my second year in business administration here at the University of Sydney. And one of the things that really surprises me about Sydney is all the activities that go on, even on a Monday night. There's always something going on, and you can always find those at platforms like Eventbrite or Humantix. So, yeah.
Ananya.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm Ananya, and I'm studying my second year of the Bachelor of Commerce, specializing in finance and industrial relations and human resources. And one thing, I always wanted to live in the hustle and bustle of the city, and that's what actually took my heart here.
Oh, you're from Hyderabad.
Yes, I'm from Hyderabad,
It's
India.
pretty busy there already.
It is, but then the sort of the hustle and bustle in the city, and again, echoing pretty much on what you both said, everything, there's something different happening every day, and a lot of, and the cosmopolitan city that it is, you always have something to learn from each other all the time, and that's what is one of the most important thing as an international student, when you just get out of your comfort zone and you get to meet other people, and there's a lot to learn from each other. So that's what is really, really interesting for me here in Sydney.
Fantastic. Now, for those of you who have just chimed in, I see we've got about a dozen folks who are already joining us. There's a chat box at the bottom of your screen. Please give us a shout out and let us know where you're from. Now, what makes this panel fun is when you guys actually start to ask questions. We can chat about our experiences here, and you can just be in your chair and listen and be a passenger, but we'd very much like to hear what you have to ask these guys. These guys have walked the walk. They have made the decision. They've got on the god-awful long flight to get here. Claudio, how many hours on an aeroplane?
20, around 20, maybe more.
I'd say about 24, yeah.
Around 17.
None of that is fun, I'm not going to lie to you. But once you get here, you can enjoy it. So there's some good parts and some bad parts about being so far away. All right, so we've got students chiming in from Canada, Iran, India. Guys, keep it coming. Let us know where you're from. Now, on the screen in front of you shows you some of the other webinars that are coming up. This is a great one to get the really human aspect of what's happening at the University of Sydney and living in the city of Sydney from real students. But there's also some other webinars on more specific information on different programs. We've already recorded some as well, one for the MBA program that Kevin's doing with us, and some other areas of interest as well. Well, we've just had Puerto Rico join us. Thank you for joining us, the rich port. All right, the big question we have to ask, and it's the question you're all going to get asked, is why on earth would anyone bother to study at the University of Sydney? And we'll take it from that end this time.
Yeah, so being it ranked amongst the top 1% of the universities, and for me the most influential factor in choosing USyd is the wide variety of majors that it offers, and the sort of platform we have in terms of the academic resources, and this help all over, and the best platform is for anyone who could use it at its best. So I think these are the two main factors for me, and the rest other factors include the city I wanted to choose and the multicultural environment over here. So there are like different factors, and yes, those are the two.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So originally, when I was looking at universities to work on a master's degree, the University of Sydney had one of the top ranked master's in supply chain management programs in the world. And that honed my focus in on the University of Sydney. And it wasn't until I started learning more about the university that I learned that they just came out with a full-time Master's in Business Administration program. And so that was an easy sell.
A brand new one. We're very fond of saying we're the oldest university in Australia with the newest MBA. So quite a change there. Economics, why here at Sydney?
Well, I studied economics in bachelor, but for my master's, I wanted to add something else to just plain economics, and the University of Sydney offered a Master of Public Policy, which is what I ended up doing here, and I couldn't really find a similar program like that in the country. So yeah, I also chose it because of the specific program that I wanted to attend, and the quality of life, the overall quality of life in the city. The weather is super nice. There's heaps of stuff to do all the time, and the city is just stunning. The city and the campus here.
And this is a guy who comes from Milan. That's a really hard number to beat. Where are you from originally?
Originally from Cleveland, Ohio. We're pretty close to the border of Canada.
Yes. So, but the home of LeBron James and Superman.
Yeah.
But they're not the same person.
No, I've met LeBron James,
So not Superman.
but not Superman.
Okay. Or maybe they are the same person. You've never seen them in the same room at the same time, have you?
No.
All right. Now, there's a little bit of information on your screen for the audience there. Just having a look at some of the interesting things about the city of Sydney. So remember, it's like getting married. You don't just marry the person you're marrying, you're marrying their family. When you commit to the University of Sydney, you're committing to the city of Sydney as well. And it is, I mean, you've heard everyone say the same thing, but there are always things going on. And it is constantly rated as one of the top 10 or even top 5 cities in the world to live. And I don't know if you know, but a few years ago, they had a competition for the most beautiful commute. And Sydney got in the top 5 for Manly to Central, the intercircular quay. So going across in the ferry. There are people in this city who literally take the boat across Sydney Harbour every day to go to work and home again. That makes going into the office all that much easier. All right, we've just had another couple of people come in, so great of you to join us. Remember, the chat box is at the bottom of your screen. Get down there and ask some questions. Now, the word multicultural, I mean, I think we're a fairly multicultural panel right here. Have you had any trouble connecting with your tribe? I know you're coming here to be in Australia and study Australian stuff, but have you contacted with the American community, the Italian community, the community from the subcontinent? Could I start with you, Claudia?
Yeah. I haven't actually tried specifically to connect with other Italians. I feel like sooner or later you're gonna meet them. It's quite easy to spot us around because we're loud.
And the hands are going.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I hear Italian on the street a lot more than I expected at first. But I say what I really like about being here is meeting people from all over the world, and that's what I've kind of focused on. Yeah.
Sometimes people ask me, what's Australian cuisine? My answer is always, what do you want it to be tonight?
Yeah.
It's whatever you want it to be. Ananya, what about you?
Oh, definitely. And yes, again, I haven't chose to. There is a very wide the subcontinent tribe here, and like most of the Indians are here. But then definitely related to the undergrad, there's more of the postgrad cohort. That's how. And my friend circle and everything is like from the postgrad, and most of my undergrad cohort is like from all over the country, all over the world, and so that's what I really enjoy. And there was not a problem for me in terms of finding people, or it was because I was always adaptable and flexible in terms of just going out there and putting myself there in front of different people. So I think one of the major reasons that we come out of our home country is also to meet those different people and to see how just being culturally competent is one of the most important skills that I've learned through the whole process. And yeah, it was never hard to find like either my people or anyone.
Well, Kevin, you probably represent the most culturally repressed and suppressed and abused minority in Australia, the poor old American. How have you felt about being here? Have you felt you found your tribe?
I found that my tribe is very amalgamated across all sorts of different groups. I haven't had any trouble meeting people. And certainly within the MBA community, as small as it is, and as much time as we spend together, it's been very easy, and that's really been my home tribe, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Now, everyone on the other end there, you're going to see a map in front of you showing the city of Sydney. You've got different parts. Kevin's program, the business program, is actually in the city centre, which is that cluster of buildings at the top of your screen. We call it the CBD, or the city. I'll try my American accent, Kevin. You can rate me on this. Downtown.
Downtown, yeah.
Pretty awful, wasn't it? I'll not do that anymore.
It's good.
It's not too bad. But even if you've never been to Sydney, so those who are watching, if you've never been to Sydney, you've got those two geographical markers in front of you, Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Opera House. And the main campus of the city, of the University of Sydney, is behind the city, so that clump of tall buildings at the top. But we do teach in different parts of the city as well. We have teaching hospitals and so forth. But that's going to give you a view of the city. All right, and that's the same sort of information in a stylized form. You're going to see a big red block. That big red block at the bottom or middle of your screen there is the main campus, but you will have other bits and pieces of the campus around the city. Now, the great thing about the location of the University of Sydney being in the middle of the city where it is, you can get down into the harbour, you can go to the rocks, you can go to the eastern suburbs. We've got a train line just behind the campus, Redfern Station. We've got 2 bus lines running either side of campus. For God's sake, don't get a car here. I've seen how Italians drive. I've seen how Indians drive. And the Americans are on the wrong side of the road anyway. So please get yourself an Opal card and get around.
Actually, did you hear that you don't need the Opal card anymore?
This is true. That's already out of date. You can actually just connect it to your credit card or just jump over the turnstiles. But I wouldn't recommend that if you're quick enough. All right, you guys, I'm sure you know you're studying at Australia's first university. We were established in 1850. We're ranked well in the world. There's lots of those bits and pieces. I just wonder if any of you guys have taken a bit of time to have a look at the history and the culture. Now, coming from Italy, yes, you've got several thousand years of history and all the principalities and so on of the former Indian nations were amazingly complex and old and so forth. And in the United States, you go back to the First Nations and what their history is. So you've all got your own histories to draw upon. How did that make you feel when you had a look at what was here? Did it influence you in the way you understood the country and the place? Can I start with you, Ananya?
Definitely. I think coming from a background where there's so many principles and everything, it pretty much echoed here. And it was not for me because I did a lot of research before coming here, and in terms of city, people and everything, and I've come here. I'm a really good observer, so I think that helped me really well. And I didn't really find it really challenging, and it always helped me because again, adaptability and flexibility were my 2 key things when I'm coming out of my home country. So it really helped me a lot in terms of connecting in every walk of life basically here.
Okay. Have you been up to the Quadrangle and had a look at the museum and done any of that stuff?
I haven't been to the museum specifically, but I like it because my bachelor uni back home is actually really new. So despite coming from Italy, it was just like new buildings. So coming here and being at physically Hogwarts is really, really cool.
Yes, we do get compared to Hogwarts on occasion.
And a lot of tourists.
A lot of tourists.
Yeah.
It might surprise you guys at home. So we literally get busloads of people turn up. We've actually had to get cross with one Chinese tour company that was telling people this was where the Hogwarts scene of the Harry Potter movies were shot. And they had to get a nice letter from our lawyer saying, you've got to stop saying that. So we do have tourists quite confusingly come up to us and ask where Hogwarts is. This does happen. It's quite confusing at first. But we'd much prefer to be a campus where we were maybe a bit annoyed having a lot of people than a place where no one wanted to come and visit us. And believe it or not, we have a Quidditch team.
Yes.
2 years ago, apparently, quite shamefully, the world champion. Not sure what to do with that, but there you go. All right, again, getting back to the history, this is what the buildings looked like a long time ago. Those buildings are all still there. But as we're very fond of saying here, we're not only the oldest university, we're also the newest. Now, you guys can, I'm sure, attest that there's a lot of building going on campus. A whole new engineering precinct is coming into play. which is good because it was pretty awful. You guys in the business world, you've got a whole lot of gorgeous new buildings. So the facilities on campus, I know it's a bit of a boring, mundane question, but was there anything that you thought, wow, this could have been done better, or things that you think could have worked better that didn't work well on campus? Try and give us a balanced equation, because you've been very positive and I appreciate it, but if you could maybe think of something that didn't work so well. Start with you, Kevin. Americans are good at complaining.
Jeez. Give me a high name to live up to.
I do.
Yeah, so it was funny, I was actually talking to one of my friends the other day about this, and I believe the university has over 600 buildings and 2,100 rooms that they lease out. I think for me, as somebody exploring and living in these spaces, I actually haven't had any issues because I mostly just go to the CBD.
You never found it confusing finding places?
Yeah, I think for you, CBD was like, maybe that's your campus and it's always, I mean, I love going there to study because there's a lot of space. There's no students there. And I don't really find space in ABS until and unless you come either early in the morning or please stay up back in the night. So I think that's only the one thing that, because it's, the number of students coming in are increasing. I think ABS would have been maybe talking in terms of architecture. I think the space would have been used a little more efficiently because there's a lot of space for walking, and like another day you just go, you don't find this the study space to sit and study. That's a little, maybe that's one thing.
To put the things in context, we're almost at 70,000 students. So the university has been playing catch up, I suppose, for about 10 years, trying to make sure that we have enough facilities for all of our students. During exam periods, several buildings become 24 hours a day, and the gyms as well, I think, become 24 hours over exam period, so that there's the facilities there for students to use. So we can be called a bit of a victim of our own success on occasion, because we are constantly playing catch up. But that's wonderful that there are students who want to come and study. Claudia, something that was a problem to you, something that you didn't expect, and you think, wow, that could have been done better.
I don't know, because like I heard people complaining about the study spaces not being enough, but as a postgrad, there's one library that's just for us, and that solved the problem for me because there's always enough seats there because it's only postgraduate students.
Okay.
So I've always been able to find a seat anyways. Some buildings, maybe the older ones, the like notation of the rooms, like the way they're numbered is really confusing if you've never been there. You might struggle to find your room that happened. I got lost once,
Okay. What's the app called? Lost on Campus?
Yes.
Yeah.
There is a really good app. It's not a University of Sydney app, but a lot of students use it. It's called Lost on Campus. And apparently the University of Sydney was one of the most difficult ones for them to put into the system because it's just such a weird structure. So when the university was first established, there was a plan for the first buildings, but for a long period after that, they just sort of built buildings where there was space. It was only really in the 1990s that they came up with a solid plan around the development of the campus. So it can be a bit confusing. It is a big campus. Just so you guys know, it has its own postcode, and it's technically its own suburb. So in American parlance, a zip code. I don't know if you use different nomenclature. All right, but look, there's a lot of interesting people here. There are a lot of brutal sports on campus, things like rugby. If you've ever played Australian rules football, that's a pretty full-on sport as well. But probably the most brutal sport is, I would say, politics. This year we've had the riot police on campus once. We had a free speech debate, which got very heated. I'm not fond of the violence, but I'm very happy that our students have been able to maintain the ability to become enraged about something. In the post-truth era, it's going to become more and more difficult. So, I mean, these are all good points. It is a big campus. And as I was saying before about tribes, you're not going to meet every one of these 70,000 students. You're going to find your group of people. There are also clubs and societies. You guys joined any clubs and societies?
Yes.
Can you tell us which ones you joined?
So right now I'm in the executive board of the Sydney University South Asian Business Society. I'm the head of the events in the society, and previously I worked for ISEC, which is an global international youth-run organization that works on developing leadership skills through exchange opportunities to students to the backward countries. It's more of a cultural exchange and volunteering.
Yeah.
And also, I am a peer mentor and for the undergrad business school. So there's so many things that I do, and like all the clubs, there are over 230 or 280, I guess, yeah, somewhere around that number of clubs and societies, like Chocolate Club, Chocolate Society, like that's one of the most popular society, and who doesn't love chocolate? Yeah.
And
So
then
you
there's a really
name it.
boring one like the Economists Club. Both ends of the spectrum.
Absolutely, absolutely. You name it, you
You're
have
in
it.
both.
You name it, you have it.
Kevin, have you had time to engage? Because you're in a very specific cohort of students. You might not have engaged with clubs and societies, or have you had time to do so?
Actually, there's the MBA has quite a few clubs. Just last evening, I was involved in a tech and innovation club meeting, and so we went over things like cloud architecture and stuff like that. And then we've got the MBA Healthcare Club. We've got a startup club. So yeah.
Oh, good. I'm so pleased.
Yeah.
So remember, if you've not found your group, clubs and societies are a great way to do that. We're just going to hear from Claudia, and then we'll get into the questions. Have you joined any of the clubs and societies?
Yeah, well, the Economic Society, because that's like a must, and then the Food Society, because they take you out to eat. So that's always. And then apart from societies, I think each faculty has a lot of events, seminars, workshops, and they're free for everyone, for students, for faculty, professors. So I got involved recently with the School of Economics and have a bunch of cool events.
Wonderful. As I like to say, if you're bored in Sydney, that's your fault. All right, to the questions. Comment from Stephanie in Canada. Sounds like the campus is a bit like UBC. I was actually at the University of British Columbia a little while ago, and it's true, they're both big, but UBC tends to be more indoor focused. The picture you'll see behind you on that slide is actually our law building, and you can see through it. And you'll see there's a lot of grass spaces in front. Now, I get accused all the time of photoshopping or setting up photographs of students studying on the lawns or in the quad. It's true. Students do take their laptops out there. There is a lot of the year, probably 6 to 8 months of the year, that you are outside and spending a lot of time walking between buildings. It is a big campus, but it's not oppressively so. I like my walks across campus. I like it when I have a meeting on the other side of campus. It's a pleasure. So thanks for that one, Stephanie. Question from Usama. How long does it take to walk from Camperdown to Darlington, one side of the university to the other? And are there any transportation options available other than your own feet? Great questions. I'm going to throw to you.
It hardly takes you around. It's just a big highway that divides the campus into two, Camperdown and the Darlington. So it hardly takes you maybe 5 minutes. It's not.
But I think the question, I think what they're getting at is if you were walking from one side of campus, maybe Parramatta Road, down to the health centre or your building down there, how long would it take you to walk right across campus?
Maybe around 10 minutes.
You're a quick walker.
Yeah, I do. I am. I walk really brisk. My friends say, please, Ananya, stop.
Okay, and what are the transportation options? Claudia, have you had any time to explore the options?
I know there's a bus, a shuttle bus.
That's correct,
that plays from Fisher Library.
It goes all around campus, but one of the main stops is Fisher Library, correct? That's also a security feature as well. If you're feeling, particularly in the evenings, you don't want to walk down to the train station by yourself, jump on the courtesy bus. It's always there. So it's not only helpful, but it's also security. What about other ways of getting around campus?
I personally like to use Uber.
Yes.
so Uber, the Opal or the tram, if you will.
Yep. Now, you won't drive on campus much. When you walk through campus, you will not see many cars. The university has made a deliberate decision to make it very uncomfortable and very expensive to bring a car onto campus. And that's by design. We don't want to have a campus full of cars and the pollution and all of that. We want to encourage people to move around in different ways. So yes, there's your own feet. A lot of students use bicycles. Not quite as much as I went to University of California, Santa Barbara, and I think the primary mode of transport there is a skateboard. But you will see the odd student with a skateboard as well. and there are buses running either side of campus. So any other thoughts on transport or around? Take the ferry to Manly. Okay. Satish is asking, are the libraries and most of the other facilities available on Camperdown campus? The thing about the University of Sydney is there's lots of little nooks and crannies. You'll know your main places to study, but after being here for a year or so, you'll discover this quiet little courtyard. You'll discover this other little study space. There are all these nooks and crannies, and it's all across the campus. So as you learn to explore, and I think Kevin's a great explorer, you will learn where all these places are. But the main library is right in front of the quadrangle building on the Camperdown side of campus. But there's also the law library. There's also other sci-tech library. I should know that, it's in this building. And there's also a couple of little libraries just off campus. Did you know there's the Newtown Library? If you go down towards Newtown, there's a great pie shop, and just in front of it is another small library. And during exam time, it's just crammed with our students. So the more you get to know campus in the cities, there's lots of different facilities all over the place. All right, Patel is asking, is there any difficulty that students are going to face when they're coming alone, knowing no one? Well, all of you have been in that situation, haven't you? I'm going to start with you. I'll get back to that question I think I was asking before. How did you find your tribe?
Well, yeah, because at first you may hear, so you're all like happy and stuff, and then you're like, oh my God, I'm here by myself, and it hits you. But then I think what really helped me was Welcome Week. The week before classes, there's a lot of events. All the societies have a stall in the main area of the campus. There's parties, dinners, literally so many events catered to international students. For undergrad or postgrad specifically. So I've actually made most of my friends back then. Because it's designed to help people meet each other. So that was really, really helpful. And then, yeah, as you go on and during the semesters, you can join a club, you can meet people in class. Everyone takes different classes, so you're exposed to a lot of different people all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, so 1 in 4 students at the University of Sydney is an international student. And we've been doing this for a long time. You won't be coming and finding that you're the first international student ever to grace our campus. And the great thing about the events that we set up, and we make them deliberately this way, is that you can feel you can go and talk to people. If you're going out into the city and you go into a bar or something like that, you feel maybe a bit awkward about going up and just talking to people. They might think you're a nut. But on campus, there are a whole lot of situations that are deliberately created where people can go up and talk to basically anyone there and make that group of friends. And it can be a little bit daunting at first, but remember, you're not the only one in that situation. Everyone is in that situation. Kevin?
Yeah. So before we even signed a lease to live in our apartment, we stayed in a hostel, and there's so many hostels near to the campus. And I'd recommend anybody that's moving overseas to spend at least a week or so to just get acclimated to the city and get a feel for what kind of area you'd like to live in.
Mm-hmm.
And through spending time at the hostel, we actually met quite a few people that were in similar circumstances. So that's how we got started.
Okay.
Yeah, it's absolutely. For me, that wasn't a really good, a lot of problem. But then I think the most difficult thing is you making up your mind to get out of your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. I think everyone would go through the same phase, but then it's just a phase. If you're willing to live in that, in your own comfort zone, you're going to have that phase for a longer time. Mm-hmm. And because you have the resources out there, you have been arranged and organized with all the events out there. So it's entirely upon you how you just go put yourself out there and make new friends or network or whatever to make yourself comfortable into the society.
Oh, I'm so happy you guys have had that positive experience. Now, there's another question about Cumberland campus. It's a good question. If you're doing sports sciences, if you're doing physiotherapy, occupational therapy, we actually have still operational satellite campus, the Cumberland campus, which is near Lidcombe Station. It's pretty awful. The facilities we have there are very good, but the neighbourhood's not very nice and it's inconvenient for transport. You guys have probably never even been there.
No.
Exactly. That's all moving back onto main campus. Now, I have to say that ever since I joined the university, and that was a long time ago, they've been saying it's going to be moving back onto main campus. But they're actually building the buildings, and they look like they're going to be completed fairly soon. As I said to you before, we've always seemed to play catch up in the growth phases of the university. So 2020, 2021, all of those facilities that are currently on the Cumberland campus will be moved onto main campus, and the Cumberland campus will be decommissioned and returned to the New South Wales state government, and it'll be used for another purpose after that. So by the time a student applies and comes here, it would be unlikely they would have anything to do with the Cumberland campus. If you did, you might have a couple of classes out there and do most of your study on main campus. So that'll soon become a part of the history of the university. Interestingly, it's right across the road from the largest cemetery in Australia.
Oh.
It's actually quite beautiful if you've ever got the time to walk through it. It's so large, it's actually referred to as an acropolis, or a city of the dead. And because so many people in Australia came from different parts of the world, back in the days before quarantine was a thing, you would bring plants and trees. So it's actually run by the park services, and a lot of the plants there are considered to be of very great importance because of the historical significance they bring from people who came to Australia from all over the world. All right, Satish, coming to study the Master of Speech Language Pathology, specifically, it'll be coming, by the time you come, it'll all be on main campus, Satish. Yeah, don't worry too much about it. And it's not going to be a big problem. All right, now on the screen in front of you, you're going to see a list of subjects, just things that we teach. The University of Sydney, I often get this question, what are you good at? Yeah, what is the University of Sydney known for? You have to sort of look at us in a different context. We're a government organisation, and Australians have this crazy habit of building universities where people live. And we were charged by the state, well, the colony of New South Wales and the state of New South Wales, of educating all of the people in our state, and later on it's become federal. So my point is, we basically teach everything, and we're instructed to do so by our government. The only things you can't learn to do on campus are become an optometrist, learn how to fly an aeroplane, though you can learn how to design one. We don't design ships or cars. And there was, actuarial, which apparently we are going to be looking into in the not too distant future. But unless you want to study any of those things, you can study it at the University of Sydney. And we do pretty well. This is something that might surprise a lot of students. Our academic calendar is wild and wacky. We start at the beginning of the year and we end at the end of the year. It's like, what were those crazy Aussies thinking? So the most important thing is that Christmas is summer. Have you guys had a Christmas here yet?
No.
You haven't had a Christmas here?
I was in South Sudan.
Oh, you weren't here. That's right. You were studying, but you weren't here. You were in Sudan. All right. So Christmas in Australia is going to the beach, having a barbecue with your mates. And if you have snow where you're from, sending pictures back to your friends, making them feel really jealous. Guys, you must have been to the beaches. If you have been to the beaches, tell me your favorite Sydney beach.
Tamarama Beach.
Oh, that's pretty.
Coogee.
Coogee?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Manly.
Manly. All right. Why did you like Manly?
It's more of like, I love the Coogee to Manly walk,
It's
the
lovely.
coastal walk.
Yeah.
I think that's like my favorite walk whenever, it's like a big stress reliever for me.
It is beautiful. Why? Why Coogee?
Coogee, so Bondi is the beach that I think a lot of people
I
know
know,
of.
but it's not that good. I know it's famous, but anyway.
But I think Coogee is more of like a locals beach.
Yeah.
And yet it's still got the restaurants and bars and nightlife that's tucked into.
Yeah, Tamarama is smaller and the area around is really, really nice.
Yeah.
Like the views there are so good, like the whole area around it.
You ask 20 different Sydney-siders, what's your favourite beach? You're going to get 20 different answers. Some beaches are great for families. Some beaches are great for snorkeling. Off Manly, there's an area called Fairy Bower, which is great for people learning how to skin dive or scuba dive. There are places for fishing, places for surfing, lots of different types of beach. Don't think of a beach as being just one thing. My favorite beach is DY Beach because it has a very big cliff and a bluff that goes out into the ocean. And if you want to have a wonderful evening, wait for a thunderstorm to roll in from the Pacific Ocean and stand there as nature's fury unleashes. It's magnificent. All right, so the seasons are different, our academic calendar's a little bit different. Don't be frightened of it. What a lot of students will do is they'll either really prepare very well and come in July for what we call a mid-year intake. A lot of degrees have that. Or some students will have this semi-gap year and then start in the new year in February. But for the MBA program, they only start in August, matching the American timelines. God help us. All right, questions coming in from Nazfia. Where do you guys currently live? Is it possible to manage accommodation near the campus for international students? How costly are they? I'm just going to get one person to answer this. Anyone volunteering? No? Yes?
Sure.
Please.
I live right in the heart of the city, which is called the Darling Harbour, which is my next favorite place after campus. So I think I walk to uni every day. It's a 30-minute walk from there. And I think there's a lot of accommodation options on campus, and for international students there are options like you have catered and you have non-catered. There's a wide variety of options, and it's not really hard to find any accommodation around. And how expensive are they really depends on the different types of accommodations that the university provides.
You want to add to that?
Yeah, I live actually in a student accommodation, so it's right next to campus. It takes me 5 minutes to class, which is something I really like. And it's in Newtown, which is a really, really nice area. I love Newtown. So
just to give you guys an idea of scale, we have about 7,000 rooms on campus. But the whole area around the university is really the university's accommodation. We have Newtown, which has been described to me by my American colleagues as a college town.
Yeah.
And I walked up there, I never thought of it that way because I grew up here. This is just Newtown. But when I looked at it, and when I looked at it in the US college town, I said, I can see the comparisons. Lots of unreasonable amounts of frozen yogurt, pizza, and a few bars, and just that sort of vibrant lifestyle. And there's always at least one strange person, or as we call them, nutter, going up and down. There's a lovely lady who has the bicycle with the bubbles coming out the back, if you've ever seen her. And there's a guy on a motorized scooter who only plays Elvis Presley. So a few eclectic characters up in Newtown as well. So there is a range of cost. How much would you be expecting for rent per week? What are you guys paying?
I live in a student accommodation, urbanist student accommodation, where I pay $400 per week.
That's non-catered?
Yes, non-catered.
So that's just the room and all the utilities?
Yes.
So it's
it has an
400.
amazing, I would definitely recommend urbanist for it's an amazing accommodation.
Right. So that's 400 Australian, which is 300 US. So it's about 25% off for a US dollar. What are costs you're seeing?
Yeah, so two bath apartment in the CBD, right beside Hyde Park, 3,400 AUD per month, split across two. So it's about 1,700 that I pay per month. And that's about 12 to 13 USD. So about 300 to 400 USD per week.
Okay.
I'm paying $320 a week. It's non-catered, but it has all utilities included, and it's a single bedroom in a 4-people apartment.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you
330.
Okay.
320, 330.
If you can't cook and you're worried that you would muck up doing, say, cornflakes, you can get a catered accommodation option. That's going to be up to about $600 a week, but that's a very high level of care. So there's that whole range in between. And again, with the University of Sydney, it's about choice. And I think Kevin made an excellent point. Come in for a couple of weeks, get to learn the place, see what the options really mean, and then make your decision. Now, Felix asks, what website do people use to find their rents or rentals in the city? Now, the University of Sydney has its own accommodation website, but you guys probably use different other websites because you live off campus.
Yeah, but I'm actually planning to move
off
campus now, so I'm actively looking now on flatmates.com.au, and that's, I think, the best website there is.
All right. Any other websites, guys?
Not really.
No? All right,
not specifically.
All right. Usama is asking, what are the options for cricket lovers? We'll have to go to the end. No, not a cricket lover at all.
I am not.
You know what cricket is? It's like baseball on Valium. No? No? I'll have to feel that one.
But there are other cricket players on campus, and like, yeah, you will be seeing the Indian crowd playing cricket, and like there's the subcontinental societies that arrange cricket tournaments against each other and against one another within like the Sri Lankan society, the Pakistani society, the Indian society. So yeah, you do have, you can see, if you can't, you can come over and create one.
Exactly.
That's the flexibility that the university offers.
Yep. All right. So yeah, there's heaps of different places, and of course, the University of Sydney has its own cricket team, which is a very difficult one to get onto. It's considered to be at quite a high level. And there's also sports and fitness. There's just there are two big gyms on campus, and there are lots of different clubs that revolve around sports. So whatever sports you're into, I think the only one that we've come across that I've been asked that we didn't have was lacrosse, because we don't know what that is. I'm assuming that's an American thing. No, stick ball.
Yeah, it's just like a stick with a net, and it's kind of like hockey and
you're not going to play that.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's going to be here. Look, we have students competing at the Olympic level. We have students competing at the state level. Rugby and AFL and cricket are all students who are preparing not only just to finish their degree, but will probably go on to play for state and country. All right, is there any registration fee, or how does it work? So what you do is you get a student union card. How much does that cost? 70?
It's around $45 per year, and $25 per semester.
Yep.
Yeah. So once you get that, so basically there are two things. You have a free membership, and when you pay 45 or 25, you get a rewards membership. So wherein rewards acts as in a little concessions on campus for food, for different joining different societies. But like, whereas if you have the regular membership, you are a part of the Sydney University Union, which is Union of Sydney University, which is USU. So I think for the sports, it's like they have different fees, and you just have to go and find out how because I know my friends play tennis. They just go register, pay an hourly basis of fee, and then they play. So
all right. Other sports you people are into?
Basketball.
Okay.
Not to be confused with netball, which is a very unique Australian sport, as I've been told.
It's unusually so. So it's also played in other Commonwealth countries, but we're so good at it, people think about us. Yes.
Fair enough. Yeah. But there's basketball courts.
So basketball.
Not really a sport.
Not a sporty guy.
During the welcome week, I would like get a lot of people from the different sports club asking to join. So many, like they had karate and like all the.
You weren't tempted to join the Quidditch club then?
No.
Just checking. All right, keep the questions coming in, guys. Now, Patella's asking, how do you guys rate this university out of 5 in terms of education and support for international students? Now, please be as honest as you possibly can. You've obviously made the choice to be here. I'm hoping you're having a great time. But if there is something you think we can do better, we want to hear it. I'm going to pick on you again, Claudia.
Honestly, I'd say 5, because I never had like anything to complain about, like especially in terms of education. All the classes I've had, all the professors have been really, really amazing. So I really have to like
so pleased.
I just want to throw a little shout out to the International Loans Department at the University of Sydney. So for those of you coming from Canada, the United States, and quite a few different countries.
Alicia and her team are wonderful.
Yeah, Phil and Izzy, they'll take good care of you. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think I really can't agree more upon. Right? So it's I would definitely give 5 on the education, and also the support is immense. It's just that the help is there, the platform is there. You just have to go out.
That's true. And this is something that I do hear from American students occasionally, is they don't feel that they're approached to see if they need help. As soon as you're on campus at the University of Sydney, you're a grown-up. And all of the support is there, but you do have to put your hand up and say, I need a bit of help with this. Maybe I need this. We have full counselling services available. We have a careers office. Everything you need is there, but you have to be the adult and say, I need assistance in this area. Who's here to help me? As soon as you find that person, it all happens fairly quickly and smoothly from there. Thanks for the question, Patel. This question is for Kevin. All right. Why don't you read it out for us?
How long did it take you to adapt to the time zone difference?
Yeah, so it's actually a really funny thing that I've learned since moving to Sydney is I've learned that if I'm coming to Sydney from the west, it's much more difficult and takes me about like 4 to 5 days to adjust. But if I'm coming from the east, say from the United States to Sydney, it takes me like maybe 1 or 2 days at most. But if I'm coming from like say Africa or the EU, it takes a little bit longer for me to adjust.
Okay, so it depends which way you're going around.
Yeah.
Maybe it messes you up more going one way than the other.
Exactly, yeah.
I didn't know that. All right.
Personal experience.
Okay, lots to do on the campus, blah, blah, blah. All right, this is something we love to talk about, and I'm hoping this will be true for you guys, and I'm sure it will be. We're ranked #1 in Australia and #4 in the world for graduate employability. #5 was Harvard, so we're pleased about that. We sometimes get caught up with the idea that we're such an old university, and you hear people talk about it a lot, but the university, I feel, really does push itself forward at all times to make sure that we're at that leading edge, or as our medical faculty like to call it, the bleeding edge of what we do and for our students. We never want to be that old, stodgy university that's just looking back to its glory days and wondering why the kids have that loud music turned up. We want to make sure that we're right at that leading edge no matter what we do. Do we get it right all the time? No, we don't. We make mistakes and we're constantly improving what we do. And I think that shows in these rankings. And this is not us saying that we're great, even though we do. It's the rest of the world saying, yes, University of Sydney students are very employable. We know we have, well, I know because we organise them, we have employers come onto campus and recruit our students. And some of our degree programs, I know that students get job offers before they graduate. So I know I spoke to one of the professors in power and electrical engineering, and I asked him, how long does it take your average student to find the first job after graduating? And he said, your question makes no sense. Being an engineer, he has no manners. And I said, well, sorry, what do you mean? And he said, most of our students have job offers before they graduate. So asking me how long it takes them after they graduate makes no sense. I'm sorry, Professor, I will be more careful with my questions in the future. So I'm hoping that's true for you guys as well. All right. Now, these are the panel. You guys have already been introduced to them, but I would like to go just into a little bit more background on what you did before you came to the University of Sydney. Were you an international person prior to that? Did your family move around a lot? Or were you mostly in one place? Did you have sports or hobbies that you were enjoying before you came here? You might have continued and so forth. Start all right.
Oh, cool. So basically, I'm from India and I haven't moved a lot from India. I was born and brought up there, and this is I just came out for my bachelor's. And in terms of hobbies, I think I did everything that I had on my plate since my schooling. I'm into music, I'm into dance, I'm into art and craft. I love writing. I write on personality development, and I do take sort of small counseling sessions too, in terms of just, I love talking to people in terms of like, okay, come on, if you have something, just tell me, we can sort it out. So I love that personality development and psychology. That's one thing I always worked on when I was back there. And even here, I keep reading books a lot, and my genre is personality development. And I think they're like, I basically don't have few specific things. I'm going to do only these. I'm kind of open to everything. I want to try out new things, and I keep exploring different stuff. And I'm really continuing that here, and I've learned new stuff. And I'm like, yes.
Now, you say music. Have you been down to the conservatorium for one of the 3 free lunchtime concerts that they offer?
No, not really.
Guys, if you're in Sydney, come down and have a look at the conservatorium of music, not far from the Opera House, and they've got free lunchtime concerts.
Yeah. Now, I
know you've done a lot of work in development. You were an Africa expert, and I think you got in contact with some of the Africa group here as well. Tell us a bit about what you did before you came here.
Yeah, so my background prior to coming to the University of Sydney is I got my bachelor's degree in mathematics, sociology, and history with an associate's in applied science from Ohio University. From there, I earned a commission in the United States Marine Corps, served 8 years as a mortarman, student naval aviator, and finishing up as a ground supply officer. I had a lot of experience dealing with counterinsurgencies throughout Africa and managing the supply chain. So moving to Sydney, it was a no-brainer that I would go on it to set up an NGO out of South Sudan. And so just this October, we opened up the nation's very first public library with over 13,000 books and 40 volunteers. So that's...
Well, good on you. I mean, the world needs more people like all three of you. It's a wonderful thing. Tell us about you.
Well, yeah, I was born and raised in Italy. I studied economics and finance for my undergrad, and while studying, I also lived in South Korea for a few months and in Hong Kong just before coming here. I actually came here from Hong Kong, not from Italy. And yeah, so I've always liked traveling a lot. I got it from my parents. Every time I have like some, like, I don't know, a week off, I would go somewhere and all my friends would be like, I can't just stay home for once. And yeah, and my background in high school was in the humanities. I studied Latin, ancient Greek, philosophy. So I like poetry, literature, and stuff like that as well.
Okay. Well, we're going to get close to the end of our time fairly soon. If there are any final questions you have for the panel, this is the time to ask them. So remember, you've got real live students here not being paid for their testimony. None of them have been impeached. They're all ready to answer your questions, should you wish to answer them. Look, we've got no questions, and I'm hoping that we've fulfilled your desires to speak to some of the students here. Yes, there's plenty of cricket on campus. You won't be lonely, and there's always something to do in Sydney, no matter who you are. All right, we're just going to say thank you again to the panel. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your busy schedules to come and be with us in this rather warm room. We do appreciate it, and we'll see you guys later. Remember, these are recorded. You can come back and look at them later, or you can send the links on to your friends. Any final words?
Yeah, so if anybody would like to reach out to me, feel free to ping me on LinkedIn or email or anyway. More than happy to help out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Claudia?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Really appreciate it, guys. Would you just come in? We're just going to sign off now and say thank you again for joining us, and you can watch it again later. Cheers now.